Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming at you again for yet another Film Fanatic video. It is about 9:40 on a Sunday. So yeah, hope everyone had a pretty awesome weekend. The This weekend was pretty epic. This was a really awesome weekend. One of the most one of the funnest weekends I've had in a very long time. Just so awesome. And so this weekend we played. My band Quantum played at the All Roads Festival this weekend. And, I've talked about it before, like my favorite activities to do, like when in my free time, my favorite things to do, like, socially or whatever, are to usually go see live music. And, I love to go see live music locally. It's a thing I do pretty regularly whenever there's some music going on. And obviously, especially if it's something I'm interested in or a band that really into checking out, or but generally I'll go pretty much see anything. The only thing, which is kind of funny, the only thing I usually won't go see so much is if the band doesn't have a drummer. It's kind of funny, kind of biased. I love going to see and meeting and hearing other drummers in different contexts, or meeting other drummers. But typically, I don't really discriminate when it comes to music. I love just that general thing of going to see live music, the energy that it creates, no matter where it is. And so that's been a thing for me all the time. And then the other thing that I love to do is to go to the movies. And in some ways, I was talking about it with a friend last night. I I almost to a degree. I mean, it's a tough thing to say, but to a degree, I almost love going to see a movie in a theater. That I am really excited about, and or something I'm anticipating to see, or I've been looking forward to for a long time. I uh, I almost love that experience even more. It's funny because that happened to me last month, where I was going to go see some live music, and it was a band that I had never seen before. I'd heard about. They're very, very good. And then the night before, I had made plans to go see this band. And the night before, I saw that there was a movie coming out, or a movie that I was really looking forward to watching, and to go see for actually a long time. And it was premiering. That weekend was the premiere, and it was coming out, and it was playing locally. So I dropped all my plans immediately, and I was like, "Oh, okay, let's do this instead." So that, to me, that said a lot. It's funny thinking back. I haven't really done that so much before. And the movie was the new Evil Dead Rise, which was great, and I really enjoyed it, and it was worth doing it. And so it's for me, it's like that fully immersive experience, especially if the movie is good. I mean, sometimes the movie will suck, but I love to go into movies really cold. I don't like to read too many reviews or know all that much about a movie, other than maybe checking out, maybe a minute of a preview or a trailer. Or there's obviously a couple of people on YouTube that I really love and that I watch pretty regularly. I might get a general sense of how a movie is by just checking out maybe a little bit of a spoiler review, or a spoiler free review of that film. But generally, that's it. And then I really cut myself off from trying to from hearing really anything about it, particularly around the story. It's hard these days to keep those things under wraps because of trailers that come out. Trailers have this really big problem, I think, these days for movies, where they give the general plot reveal for a film, and so You know, you take like your average movie trailer that comes out these days, and it might be say a 2 minutes long or whatever. And then what happens is that there's always two or three trailers for a new movie that comes out. You have like your little teaser trailer where it's like, maybe a minute long, and then maybe a few weeks later, then an official trailer comes out, and it's like, about 2 minutes. And then sometimes they release another trailer right around that time that's maybe even a little bit longer. But generally, after the teaser trailer, what I see now is that a lot of these films put out these trailers that give away the entire story. You know exactly what it's about. You know where things go, and then you even get a real big sense as to how things end. And it's terrible. So I try to really stay away from trailers. I love movie trailers. And I think the science of a really good movie trailer is to pique your interest, pull you in, but then leave you with lots of question marks. To me, that was like how a lot of trailers in the old way of doing things, that was the strength, and that was the initially the reason behind a trailer in the first place, where it would just pull you in. It would look really enticing or exciting, and then you're like, I don't really know what's going on, but this looks super cool. It's super interesting. And that's, and it's supposed to pull you in and make you excited and make you want to see the film. That's really it. But nowadays, I think it's because of the marketing scenario. Obviously, studios competing with streaming services and all these things. People having a tendency to stay home a little bit more, whatnot. They've decided to give a lot of plot reveals for trailers, and it's kind of terrible. One of the things that I love about going to the movies, and it's even a problem there, big time, and I still look forward to it, but one of my favorite things to do when I go to a movie is to get there early enough so I can see the trailers before that movie. That's always something I look forward to, especially if it's a new movie, and then they show you a bunch of trailers of things that are coming out like that maybe that month or the following couple of months after the movie that you're initially there to see. But that's a problem there too, is they really do give away so many things, and it's pretty rare to have that experience of where you have this question mark kind of thing, but yet you're excited and you're drawn to it, and you like think to yourself, I have to see it. And I think studios do that more now because I think in some weird way they believe that that's going to get people to the theater more. I'm not really sure, but it's a bad precedent. So now I don't really watch trailers, when I'm home, or other than I don't watch full length trailers now until, if I go to a movie, to a theater to see it. If I go to a theater to see a movie, I'll still look forward to the trailers and I'll watch them. And again, 90% of the time, the trend is that it gives away so many things. Still excited, but it's like the mystery is not. The mystery is kind of not there. And especially now, on my own, like watching trailers online or YouTube, I don't. I try to stay away from them. I might check out a second or two of them, but generally, it's that same problem. But this weekend was pretty amazing. We Quantum played at the All Roads Festival in Belfast. And like I said, one of the reasons I think trailers now are at a different stage of where a lot of companies feel like they need to show more and give away lots of points to the story to get people into the theater, physically get them into the theater, because people's habits are very different now as far as streaming music, not buying physical music, you know, not buying that tactile thing, and then also with films, not going to a physical place, watching it at home on their TV or their computer. And so, obviously people's habits have changed. But one of the coolest thing about this weekend was the amount of people that came out. And the All Roads Festival is a festival that's been going on for about 6 years or so. And what it does is it showcases all original music. And it was really cool to see so many folks come out and support mostly local based music, but the main thing, original music. And that was really encouraging, and that was the thing that I loved the most about it, was that there's all this talk of people don't want to pay that dollar for the music or that record anymore. Vinyl is still very popular and is still a really big thing, but generally people don't want to buy CDs. People want to just stream things and put things, download things for a really, really cheap price through Spotify or what have you, or get it for free. And then the same thing with films. And there's always talk that people, because of people's habits, people tend to not stay out as late as they used to. People tend to stay home a little bit more. That, maybe that live music kind of scenario will go away someday. But for me, the biggest thing that I had taken away from this weekend was that I don't think that's going to happen. It was very encouraging, and that people, still want that experience to go see live music, and they still want to spend that dollar to have that experience and to support original material. And I don't think it's going to go away. It's going to always bend and shift, and there's always going to be these different things that are going to happen. But I think when it comes down to it, I think people still crave and desire live music, and that will be a thing that will stay around, regardless of the social kind of climate or people's habits. So it was very, very encouraging. We got to play Quantum. We got to play on Friday night at Marshall Wharf in Belfast, which is pretty much the best bar in Belfast. It's such an awesome venue, amazing beer, a beautiful location. I think that place alone is a reason to go to Belfast and hang out. We played there at the opening party on Friday night, and then yesterday, we played during the day at the Maskers Theatre in Belfast at 4 o'clock. And Friday night was pretty amazing. The energy was incredible. The folks that came out were super supportive. It just felt really great. The sound, the companies that they hire, or the company that they hire for the All Roads Festival, the sound companies are just amazing. The sound guy was just amazing. It was great. It was flawless as far as being able to hear the music and the quality coming through the PA. Just amazing. And the energy was just incredible. And it was so cool to see people come out and support what we do, because our stuff is, to a degree, I think it has a very accessibility, or it has a little bit, it has like a commercial appeal to it. But there's also sides of the music that I feel are not commercial and that are more on the fringe side of things. And that's just kind of how the band rolls. That's our natural thing of how we create music. And it was so cool to see people support that and to come out. And it was one of the funnest, definitely one of the most fun gigs I've ever had with our band. And then yesterday we played at this beautiful theater that the Maskers just opened last year. They bought the Maskers is a theater group in Belfast, and they bought this church to convert into their theater. And what an amazing space! What an amazing space! It was, again, the sound was incredible. The sound guys were awesome. Everything kind of went without a hitch as far as setup. We had plenty of time to set up, and it was great. It was super fun, and and then one of the perks of being a performer at this festival is you get a pass, and you can an artist pass, so you can go to see music all day, all night. And my friend Mike, who plays with me in Quantum, we literally were in Belfast 24/7 the last 2 days, and it was awesome. I saw so much music. It was just like it was insane. I haven't done that in so long, and the after parties were just so killer. And last night was just so awesome with the Button Men, who is that's an electronic group that is based out of Portland. Super fun, but what an awesome time! One of the best weekends ever. And so I'm completely and utterly exhausted, but I feel great. And so really want to thank people coming out and supporting, and people still caring about original music, especially locally based material. It's super awesome. So today's show is on a movie that I really, really love. It's a movie I never hear talked about. It's a movie I feel is really underappreciated and super overlooked. And that is this film, Moon, starring Sam Rockwell. This movie, I said previously in a couple of videos back that science fiction is, one of my most beloved genres. I love science fiction. I really do. Most of the videos that I cover, and most of the videos up that are up on this channel they're mostly horror films that I love. I try to have a real big variety of things, but I feel like horror. I mean, obviously horror is my favorite. The slasher genre is my all-time favorite, but horror and as a whole is my favorite genre of all time, and pretty much tied with that, if you want to say, we'll call it that, it's science fiction. And I feel like I was saying that I feel like as much as I love science fiction, I feel like I don't have enough science fiction content on this channel. So I've been mindful of that, and I'm trying to do some more science fiction based videos. And this is one of the best. This movie is so incredible, so awesome. I only, unfortunately, I only have this on DVD, but this is actually a really great copy. It comes with all kinds of really great special features. It's really in depth. Visually, it's amazing. The transfer of this on DVD is pretty spectacular. This would be something to definitely get on Blu-ray at some point. When I see this eventually, or if I do ever see it, which could happen at some point, I will definitely snag this up. But I'm really happy with this copy. This film came out in 2009, and I think it's one. It's hard to believe. It's pretty old at this point, but it's hard to believe that it's as old as it is. But I think this movie is, kind of a modern day sci-fi classic, and I feel like I never hear this movie talked about, and it was Stars Sam Rockwell, Kevin Spacey, Dominique McElliott, and Kea Scodelario, Benedict Wong, and Robin Chalk. And Sam Rockwell, I mean, obviously one of the greatest character actors around. Just, so many great roles. Probably my favorite movie of his, or one of my favorite movies that he's ever done, or that he that he did. He did a movie with George Clooney. Actually, George Clooney wrote and directed it, called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and it's basically about this guy who kind of worked undercover as a CIA agent, and Sam Rockwell is in that movie, and that movie is just incredible. Sam Rockwell is such a great actor. I haven't really seen him in anything in a while, but he's always been one of my favorites. The other really cool thing about this movie is this movie was directed by Duncan Jones, who's actually the son of David Bowie. Um, and I just realized and came across that there is a sequel to this, to Moon, that came out in 2018, and it's called Mute, and I have not seen it, which is crazy. So I need to see it. Duncan Duncan Jones, his his film work is like this. This I think is just an amazing film. Definitely the best thing he's ever been involved in. There's some, like, again, I have not seen um, Mute or Warcraft. He also directed Warcraft, which is the big budget adaptation of the game, which is pretty good. It would be cool to see it again. It very much has like a James Cameron Avatar feel, the way it's shot. But I don't know. I remember it being okay. It would be cool to see it again. But I remember he directed that, and that was a huge kind of mega, budget thing for him to do, because he's, for the most part, his start was more as like an independent filmmaker. Because this movie, like the effects and the design of this film is just incredible, and it's amazing, but it's also incredible too because it's all mostly in camera. A lot of the effects that you see and kind of the world building behind this film is are real sets, and there's not a lot of there's barely any CGI in this film. And so it really, the environment that this film takes place in feels really lived in, and it feels like it's got that tangibility. That's one of the coolest things. There are examples of CGI now, or the blue screen thing for films that, where it does look really great. It does seem seamless. But you can't take away the magic of when there's actual, set pieces built, and what you're actually seeing on screen is more or less a real location, whether it's like taking place, say, in a castle or a spaceship, or in some deep dark forest. Like when it's shot in an actual location, it always has that thing of where it adds so much to the story, because it changes the performances of the actors who are in those scenes, and it enhances their performance, I feel, because they're actually in this subjective universe that's created, and you're actually seeing it. So it gives you the sense of a viewer, that it feels lived in. I think one of the best examples of that is Ridley Scott's masterpiece Alien. It's all real. It feels gritty. It has this tangibility. It feels like it's something that those characters, it feels like a place that these characters have lived in for a long time. So it just has that resonance. an example of where it's so extremely the opposite of where it doesn't work, and it feels like everything feels artificial. The characters feel like they're wooden cutouts, and the environment is completely and utterly artificial. Probably the best example of that for me is the Phantom Menace, Star Wars movie, that the first of these prequels that George Lucas had put out, where everything is so artificial. There's no nothing feels lived in. The characters are there's nothing for them to interact with in their environment, and everything feels wooden and stiff, and there's no emotional connection or any kind of tangibility to what you're seeing or hearing. And so at the end of the day, and I see it now more so even now with even bigger Hollywood films. There seems I think a lot of things always come full circle. You know, when things were working, say certain styles of, well, in music too, but certain styles of like the way bands would record music, you know, in the 60s and 70s, and then also the way certain films were made in the 60s and 70s or the 80s. And then obviously the technology has grown, you know, at an astronomical rate that it kind of eclipses those, you know, techniques that were used, almost makes it look like some arcane dead language. But when you go back to those films and you go back to those records during those decades, there's a certain organic thing about it, and it just has this rawness to it. And I and those albums and those films, I think, are things that people will always revisit and always go back to because of that magic. And and I see that now with even where technology is, things come back full circle. I'm starting to see in certain films, bigger budget films more so, where there's a lot of more in-camera effects. There's a lot more, you know, the set pieces are actually real. It's not completely artificial. And also, I think with recording, for a lot of bands, they're starting to keep things a little bit more live. They're starting to, you know, come back to that thing of, you know, an actual band in a room playing together, keeping it close to, say, the live performance aspect of it. But again, this film is the best thing that Duncan Jones has ever directed. He also, the other film that I did see of his, it's actually not that, it's not very good. I was kind of disappointed with it. It's okay, but not very good. He did a movie called Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's okay. It's a pretty bland movie. It's again a sci-fi movie that deals with time travel. Jake Gyllenhaal is always usually really great, and you know, in whatever role he's in. But it's an okay movie. It's nowhere near as good as Moon. Moon is such a fabulous movie because it really deals with isolation. It's a very the atmosphere of this movie is just spectacular. It's a pretty dark movie. It's also kind of a depressing movie, but and it really deals with it's essentially it's just Sam Rockwell on the big screen for 2 hours. There's barely any other characters in it, and he is pretty much the only person in this in each scene. And it's so great. It's about he's basically an astronaut that is on this mission on the moon to do some like experiments, and he basically comes across these series of events that happen to him are very strange, and he eventually discovers like his doppelganger, at the space station at on the moon, and he is not sure what's going on, and he starts having these crazy hallucinations, and he's not sure if he's actually encountering himself. But it's amazing. But it's really a tale about, extreme isolation, desperation, lost love, and then also finding hope. And but it's just an amazing movie. It's such a great character study. But the sci-fi element of this film is really great. It's very dark. It's got a lot of great tension. Just an amazing ride, and it's has an obvious influence from like Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. It definitely has um, it definitely has that kind of vibe to it. The one thing, well, again, like I said, this package has a really great um, special features component. There's a really great interview with Duncan Jones, the director. He wrote and directed this film, and he talks a lot about his influences. He talks a lot about Ridley Scott, obviously Alien. Alien is definitely an influence on this. The first one from '79, 2001. But the movie he said for him that was the biggest inspiration was a movie called Outland, starring Sean Connery, which came out in the early '80s, late '70s, early '80s. He felt that that movie was the biggest source of inspiration for this movie. And I remember years ago when I've had this for a long time on DVD. I bought it, quite a few years ago. I bought it like pretty much after it came out, and after I'd seen it. And I had never seen Outland with Sean Connery. And after I kept hearing about it, and it really piqued my interest when he was talking about this film, I went out and bought it, and I've seen it, and I own it on DVD, and it's one of my favorite sci-fi movies. It's really gritty, it's really dark, and I really saw what Duncan Jones was talking about and how that film really was a huge inspiration for this movie, more so than Alien, or more so than um, films that have a science fiction element that it's really say very very futuristic. This movie has, obviously it's set in the future. It's very sci-fi based, but it's not like so far in the future, and everything, nothing is perfect. Like the technology isn't perfect. There's a aspect of where it's grown exponentially, technology, but it's not perfect. It's still kind of figuring. You're still kind of there. It's still figuring itself out, but it has like a grittiness to it, and it has a thing of where it feels very realistic because of that. And that's one of the other traits that I love about certain sci-fi movies, of where it's not overtly set in the future and where things are completely over the top. Like it has an element of where there are those elements, like how with technology, how people interact and how they travel, but it's kind of set in the near future, and it's kind of feels like a practical place. And Outland has that. It's not over the top, and this film really has that grittiness to it, and it's not completely outlandishly sci-fi where it's like over the top with like giant spaceships and the technology is just out of control. Um, but it has like it feels grounded in reality, like a heightened reality. Another sci-fi movie that I think does an amazing job of that, where it has a good balance of those two components, is Children of Men, starring Clive Owen, which is such an awesome movie. That's another sci-fi movie I really want to get to. An amazing book, but it also has. I feel like that movie has the same kind of aesthetic. It feels lived in. It's not set so far in the future where you can't really comprehend what's going on from a technological standpoint, but you can see it, and there are. It does act as a mirror for things that are happening now. But such an awesome movie. Sam Rockwell's one of his greatest performances, if not the greatest performance of his. And again, when I was doing a little bit of research when I decided to do this movie, I didn't realize that there's a sequel to this movie. And it's called Mute, and I guess it came out in 2018. So, yeah, I will have to check this out. Paul Rudd is in it. Interesting. Alexander Skarsgård. Wow. Interesting. But anyway, incredible movie. If you haven't seen this, and I never hear this movie talked about, definitely check this movie out. It's one of the best, more modern day contemporary sci-fi movies. And if you like Sam Rockwell, definitely check this out. 2000, 2000 from 2009, Moon. Super awesome movie. So thanks again. This is Jason Dean, and we will see you next time. Peace.